So, hello. This is my intro into this account, and it should give you some background information as to where it's coming from and where I would develop it if I would continue to use it further. First of all, I bought this account from a Russian player, and when I got it, the economy was absolutely ridiculous. You had cargo production hubs at like level 13, and all the other resources were also absolutely terrible. The Hitman hotels were not developed. The family business zone wasn't developed. And that was about maybe 2 or 3 months ago. I'm not 100% sure anymore. And pretty much what I've been doing since then was just to focus on building the economy, which for me means, because it's a Mansion 30, which has good power and good stats, and we'll get into that in a minute, is to bring everything up to level 30 that produces. Notice that there's only one cash production because you're running a deficit operation, right? You'll never be able to collect cash from anywhere um, unless it's safe cash, which comes from events, which comes from the smuggler and whatnot. Um, but you can't gather cash. And if you have farms and you collect cash there, when you farm them, you need to make sure you spend it immediately, because otherwise this account alone would burn, 1.2 million per hour of cash that you have taken from your farms, which means 20 million will be gone in like 16 hours. So um, I would continue for you the process of building everything up to level 30 before I go beyond. And going beyond obviously would be building the wall to level 30, and then building the mansion to Elite 1. This account doesn't have T10 vehicles. It's not a top priority. They're nice to have, but they're not really part of your ops normally, except for maybe a handful. They're probably okay on defense, but not many players use vehicles. So I haven't done this as a priority. Eventually you should do it, and eventually it's actually a requirement to go to higher elite level mansions. But until then, I'll leave it to you whether you want to do that or not. If and when you upgrade your mansion to Elite 1, you should upgrade your Hitman hotels and your family zone first, because those coins are unique. They're hard to get from anywhere else. You should do everything you can to get those in order to continue developing. Resource production after that point, not so much anymore. I mean, if you've got the spare resources, you can develop them a little bit. Forget about cash. Some guy developed this to level 30 that I gave the account to for a week, and then, it was a huge waste of cargo. But it is what it is. I, on my main, don't really have anything above E2, because then it just becomes ridiculously expensive, especially also when it comes to the blueprints. Now, this account has a good amount of blueprints collected, but they go fast. It's going to be your main bottleneck to construction on the elite levels. It's not anymore resources. Resources are always an issue, but it's really going to be the blueprints. Hence why you should, of course, always try to finish your daily missions to get your, 14 blueprints or whatever you get there. And from any event where you can, the fishing event, or if you get these optional boxes, if you purchase something, make sure you get the blueprints. Even if you don't need them right now, you will need them later, and you'll regret every single blueprint that you didn't get from wherever you could. With regards to family business, you can develop, and I've said this on some of my other videos, you can develop some areas across the families, right? For which you don't need reputation. They are reasonably cheap, and most of them give like 1 or 2%. You should try to do those first across all the families before you'll go back to your main family, which in this case is Cosa Nostra, where this account has a decent development done on the family battles. I didn't do that. It came like this. My strategy is always cheap first, and cheap means what needs the least amount of family gold, because that's the most difficult to get. Right, and once you've developed everything, then you can start really looking at it from a more strategic point of view. Don't touch family members anywhere. It's ridiculously expensive, and it will take you forever before you will actually get the T11s. Um, you need about 1 million family gold, which will take you, I don't know, half a year to a year or longer to get. And there's no point having T11s with shitty stats. So you're better off just spending your family gold on developing this and the statistics of your troops rather than trying to get the T11s. That's really, really something for the long term game. Now, you have a decent amount of hospitals, not so many training centers. For me, this account is still in a growth phase, so I would kind of leave it like that. Again, you don't need many troops if they shit. You need to develop the training centers and the hospitals to level 30. In the end game, which means, when resources become less relevant and it's really just only about statistics, you will have to demolish cargo production, and you should develop 8 hospitals, 8 training facilities, as many metal and arms production as you can, and the rest you can leave for cargo. I think I have 3, because arms and metal is going to be the restriction of the game until the game ends, so to speak. 'Cause you'll always get cargo and cash from events and whatnot, but arms and metal are really, really hard to get, and it costs like many, many millions to do certain developments. So that's really going to be your bottleneck. Until then, you can just develop them up to 30 gradually once you've done the resources and everything, but there's not a big rush on it. I'm currently still developing the Kingpin set on this account. Kingpin set is a set that gives you production and training buffs. It's currently like mixed between blue and green, as you can see here. You should develop it to orange. And in case you haven't picked that up on some of my previous videos, the way that you do that is that you create green pieces of equipment here that you can use to synthesize the special equipment with. So, if in order to turn these green into a blue one, you need 3 pieces of green equipment level 20. So, you just gradually go here in the pawnbroker and you do your developments. Doesn't really matter what. The synthesization process doesn't care about what it is. And you make your 3 level 20 pieces, and then you synthesize it, and you continue that until you have them on orange. Why orange? Well, because after that you'll go back to your main equipment and focus on that in order to get that up to, orange itself, level 40, or even gold then as the next step. And then in the long end game, you can do your Kingpin set up to gold, but really at this stage it would be a killer. Make sure you get it balanced, because if you have it balanced, you get set buffs. So if you have them all in blue, in this case, you also get training speed acceleration, which is obviously beneficial to create more things faster, which is really what the game is about, right? More resources, that's easier to get. Investment speed, I don't really need, because it's really the problem is more the restriction on resources that you need to do anything. Training speed is always good, which means there are these equipment sets, right, that you should use to do things. My normal 5 sets are resources or resource production, investment, battle building or construction, and training. I don't have the training set here at the moment because I'd replaced it with the healing capacity set that I needed for this account for the migration. You can get rid of this unless you want to keep it just for now in order to make sure that you activate it when you sleep, because you're worried about someone attacking you, because it gives you a real good hospital capacity, right? Because I specifically made pieces of equipment that increase your hospital capacity, right? Here, healing speed and healing capacity, and I put even the emblems on it. Even some of them are shit, just to get up a little bit more. And with these settings alone, here you have 530,000, and then if you change to the support skill, you just get a tiny little bit more, 580,000, and that's just with these level 24 hospitals. If you develop them further, on my main account I have 1 million. So you should probably keep these kind of random pieces of equipment for now, unless you really need the gems for something else. Otherwise, you just keep going, which means if you do training, the way that I currently do it is I change to the resource set, because on the Kingpin set there are buffs here for, training speed on certain types of them. Then I changed the card to Queen, because Queen is the best for T9 and T10 training at this point for this account. And then I actually manually changed to the Godfather diary. And then I have and I combine it with the support skill, very important, right? Because the support skill has here somewhere, especially further down here, training speed of crew members. So it needs to be active, otherwise it doesn't do anything. And then now, now it will be the fastest to start training of crew. And if you want to go like extreme, you should always change the augmentation of your Godfather equipment for relevant activities. So now I could, for example, revert, because it's free, it doesn't cost you augmentation cancelers. I could revert my ring. I could augment my training diary. And then, you see here the golden bits are the ones that you get extra through the augmentation. So, I get an extra 5% of training speed just through this augmentation. So if you want to train a lot, when you start your trainings, make sure you activate the right equipment sets and everything. And imagine if I had the extra in the long run. Here I get 13% on blue. I think on orange you get 25% training speed. There's some good combinations. Like eventually you'll be able to train troops double as fast. Just because you've got the right settings applied. Don't apply your growth emblems here until you have this set on orange, right? Because it's too expensive to get them off. And when you apply your growth emblems for me are production emblems and training speed emblems. So you have here training capacities, and this is useless. Never used it anywhere. You use speed also, you don't need. You either gathering metal and arms and cargo, and then production metal, arms and cargo, and then somewhere here is is the training speed emblem, training speed here, which you want on your gear. With that, you're going to be able to produce as much as possible, train as much as possible, gather as much as possible. And then, every now and then you need to refresh, maybe remove a green one, put a blue one on, remove a blue one, put a purple one on, and so on and so on. Don't do this too often because it's quite expensive on the gold or on clan honor to get. I would personally spend my clan honor always on hitman production boosts, because in my opinion, it's the best. You could also use it here to buy removal tools, but those you can actually buy with gold. So it's really a question of whether you rather save it the honor for the buffs and then use the gold for the augment for removal tools. There we go. Sorry, I was getting confused by these messages. When you do your main activities, for example, shakedown, which is this event here, make sure you've got your growth set activated, which also means, have your ring augmented, which is my standard setting, for times when it's not KE. And if you're out of sync, which means because you should do 2 shakedowns a day, right? You should have that built into your actual life routine. I'll do it in the morning, I do it in the evening. And sometimes it comes out of sync. You slept in, you had an event going on, you couldn't do it, you didn't want to do it. You can try to get it back into sync, right, by using the right car, which for this account is Diamond Daisy, to get 10% skill cooldown time reduced, which means from 12 hours it becomes 10 hours and 48, which means, if you normally do it at 8 p.m., but you do it at 9:30, then you can already reset it back so that the next morning is around like 8:15, rather than being another 9:30 where maybe you're at work and you can't do it anymore. So you can kind of rescue your daily routine of doing the shakedown for the sake of losing a little bit of resources, because obviously tidal wave gives you the extra 40%, but it's better to have your routine working than having a little bit of resources extra. And this skill cooldown action obviously also works on other skills, like on any skill. Like in battle here, it's 7-12 instead of 8. Here it's 20 to 30 instead of like more than a day. Yada yada yada. Very important skill to use. Make sure you do your slammer every day. Make sure you do it with your best possible settings, which actually means on peaceful days, you should do the slammer. First of all, you should be on battle, right? And you should, see, 1 day, 1 hour. Right, careful, don't fuck this up. Activate the car. Now 22:30. Now back to your battle set. I know I do this fast, but I do this every day a lot. Battle skills. Okay, now we can start the slammer. You don't need to rush the slammer because afterwards it'll be once you've started it, you can finish it throughout the day. You don't need to do it immediately because whatever you had with regards to buff and op size and whatnot when you started it counts for the rest of the day. This is the default op, right, which comes with prioritized crew. This is not the best setting for this account. Reason being is simply because it's a bulker biker account. I'm just going to leave it for now because we'll go into that separately quickly in order to understand how to best use this account at this stage, because most people play with bulker biker. So on most accounts, come on, loading. Why is this taking so long? Huh. Here we go. On most accounts you find like bulker and biker attack and defense at this best, and then they neglect shooter and vehicle. That's what happened here. So you get this account on a normal day without buffs, to close to 300 biker attack, about 260 bulker attack. So close to 300 if you apply the standard 20% buffs. And once you've finished your development here, you'll be able to quickly get a lot more by making sure that you do the developments in the investment agency and whatnot. Also the same thing, I had to recover here all the damages that were done. So, there was hardly anything done on resources. The mercenaries weren't developed. So I've spent all my resources in fixing that, hence why I haven't developed much further on the crew capabilities, where you get attack and defense buffs, advanced arms, where you get training speed and whatnot. Those things should be done next once you're happy with the other settings. And it's the same here on the Hitman agency. You need to finish development services and construction services first. Actually here, it's not so urgent anymore, because here you should do this before you do your hospitals and your training centers, right? Because they're still at levels where you benefit from this. What's more important now is to get this here up to a maximum so that you save on Hitman coin. Then you should develop the development services to save on resources. Then you should the investment services to save on resources and have accelerated speed. And then when you're done with that, you go back to like attack and defense stuff around battle services, combat services and whatnot. And maybe do some training speed, in between when you feel like it. Again, more troops faster. You shouldn't lose troops, but, it's hard to get them back faster or get more faster. That's that. Yeah, main equipment. Main equipment should be gold terrorizer suit, gold terrorizer trousers. This account has the orange one, and I haven't changed this yet because whilst it has a decent amount of gems, never click the synthesize all, right? Only when you've done with all your sets, because you need the lower level gems for Kingpin and whatnot. You'd probably have the gems if you really wanted to get 3 pieces of orange 25 in order to make this gold, but I just didn't do it yet because I was focusing on the Kingpin set, and also there I wasn't using speed ups, I was just chucking along. So you can probably just finish it if you want. If you burn through your, what is it here, like your 30,000 1 minute speed ups or something. I would keep them because I would rather use the time rather than the speed ups, and I'll keep the speed ups for when I really need them. But that's that's obviously completely up to you on how you want to continue playing with this account. Um, Make sure that when you want to change your main equipment, you unaugment it, and that will cost you one of these augmentation cancelers, which are expensive, so you get your augmentation cards back. This should have never been augmented, but this guy who played this was just all about the stats. So, eventually you will have to spend the gold to get the augmentation cancelers to get this stuff off here. And you'll have to spend the gold to get the emblems off to refresh them with something better. For now, it is what it is. It's working okay, right? So it could be worse. Once you've removed those here, I would keep them free. I wouldn't go further than level 4 on the suit and the trousers. Once you have them on gold, I would keep them free in order to do this up and down augmentation on the Godfather equipment, because that can actually give you also quite some buffs. Right now you have here 8% crew attack and crew defense, and with every augmentation level you get 0.5% or something, or 5% of the relative value. So I have this on like 15%, an extra 7, just because I've got a relatively high level of augmentation. So it's kind of good to keep those rather than just sticking them on your battle gear, and then they are literally stuck there and you can't do anything else with them. So it's smarter to keep them free floating for your Godfather up and down. I think we're almost through already. Make sure you do your rank ups with Substance D. Try to get Substance D as much as you can, and do at least one rank up on every of the crew types every day, in order to benefit from the cheapest price, even on the crew that maybe you don't want so urgently, just because eventually you want to get them all up. So sometimes here I even do 2 or 3, just in order to gradually balance them out. Yes, of course, bulker and biker is more important, but eventually you have want to have flexibility on combining your troop types depending on what you do and who you're fighting and when you're fighting. So if you've got completely useless vehicles, then you just don't even have a choice to do anything with them. So I like having options, so I would try to do that. With regards to babes, you do have the main babes, right? Not fully up to the maximum level, because I had to save the roses in order to develop these 2 babes, right? It's the family babe, this is the Christmas babe. So you just collect your roses and play them up to the maximum before you start spending on the gifts. And then you should always go cheap first. For example, I always do this one level up, this one level up, and then back and forth, because you get the skills faster than if you do 1 to 12,000. And then you do the first 3 stars, and then when you're done with that, it stops mattering, and you just need to gradually get them all up to 5 stars. And beware of your jewelry cards, right? They're rare. One of the reasons why this account has good stats is also because the person who played this has spent on jewelry cards. You could see that. So you should find your thing, and then you should develop that. Again, there's not much done here on everything that's not bulker and biker. Here, for example, a relatively cheap one to get better shooter attack. I do these because I actually play bulker shooter, not bulker biker at the moment. But it's really up to you at the end of the day.